I consider all of Igboland to be my home. From Enugu to Anambra, Imo, Abia, Ebonyi, and the Igbo-speaking communities in Rivers, in Kogi, in Benue, in Delta. All of them are home because all of them are Igboland. Igbo, Igbo. Whenever I land at an airport, whether in Asaba or in Enugu or the wonderfully named Chinua Achebe International Airport in Umueri, the overwhelming feeling for me is one of wholeness, an internal calm, an instinctive, ancestral peace.
What if the identity you defend isn't the identity you truly own? What if who you are culturally is completely different from who you are politically, and no one ever taught you the difference? In this powerful, eye-opening conversation, Professor Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie breaks down one of the most misunderstood truths about the Igbo people and identity as a whole. She draws a striking line between cultural identity and political identity, two forces that shape how we see ourselves, yet often confused as one. Cultural identity, she explains, lives in language, names, traditions, values, and things passed down through generations. But political identity, that is shaped by borders, powers, history, and decisions often made without the people's heart or consent. And when the two collide, confusion begins. Through deeply personal insights and powerful reflections, she explores what it truly explains and what it truly means to be Igbo in today's world, beyond politics, beyond stereotypes, beyond what history tried to redefine. This is not just a conversation, it is a mindset shift. It is a change in social milieu. If you have ever had the need to question who you are or what truly defines you as a person or as a people, then this video is a must watch, and I encourage you to watch this video till the end. Also share it to your audience. Share it with your family members. After watching this video, you may never have to question your true political or cultural identity as a person and as a people. Enjoy watching.
Dalunurine angolujulu mafo unu manu unu mulum Igbo mulum jeche ebe niile na-eje ebe niile Igbo mulum. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Again, good evening to everybody. Ndinkem. Ekenekwa munu. Ekenekwa mundinkem. Dalunurinne. Thank you so much for being here. And I have to apologize for being late. Because I'm very sorry. Obununu we ifunu ga-eme na 5 because bidonu na 5. Nke a bụ mistake I made that. So I'm very happy to be here again. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. And I want to start by thanking the Center for Memories because they're doing the essential work of preserving our collective memories. I also want to thank my dear friend James Ngueze. Rebecca James. Okay. Ngueze. I want to thank James for the depth of his love for Igboland. And I want to thank him for the breadth of his intellect. James actually persuaded me to deliver a lecture today rather than to read from Dream Count. Dream Count was published in March. And for the past few months, I've been traveling on book tour in different parts of the world. And now I am here, back home in Nigeria. And I consider this my homecoming. I was in Lagos a few days ago. I was in Abuja just 2 days ago. And now I am here in Enugu. I'm here in this beautiful city on the hill. I am here in the city of my birth. I drew my first breath about 2 kilometers away from where we are today at the University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital on September 15, 1977. So although I was born in Enugu, I grew up in Nsukka on the campus of the University of Nigeria. I am from Aba in Njikoka, local government area of Anambra State. My mother is from Umunachi in Dunukofia, local government area of Anambra State. All are my homes. But more importantly, and I think more significantly, I consider all of Igboland to be my home. From Enugu to Anambra, Imo, Abia, Ebonyi, and the Igbo-speaking communities in Rivers, in Kogi, in Benue, in Delta. All of them are home because all of them are Igboland. Igbo, Igbo. Whenever I land at an airport, whether in Asaba or in Enugu or in Owerri or the wonderfully named Chinua Achebe International Airport in Umueri, the overwhelming feeling for me is one of wholeness, an internal calm, an instinctive ancestral peace. Or so it was for many years, until recently. I am not the only Igbo person who no longer feels this instinctive wholeness, this peace. I am not the only one who reads stories from Igboland and turns away in horror, who sees what is happening in Igboland today and is consumed by shock, disillusionment, and a feeling dangerously close to despair. In Igbo culture, nothing is more sacred than life. In Igbo culture, a sibling must never take the life of another sibling. That is what we mean when we call a child Ndoka, Ndubisi, Ndode. The preservation of life is sacrosanct. Things Fall Apart demonstrates the central Igbo belief in the sacredness of life. Okonkwo accidentally murders a member of his community. It is truly an accident. His gun goes off during a feast, and yet his community punishes him severely. His home is destroyed and burnt, and he's banished for years. And this was an accident. Now imagine the severity of the punishment for murder in Igbo culture. Igbo culture abhors the taking of innocent life. And yet, today, we hear grotesquely inhumane stories of people murdered in ritual practices for money. And it is important to note that the victims of this recent upsurge of barbarism are mostly women. It is not just infuriating, but it is mentally disorienting to even contemplate that in 21st century Igboland, women are considered expendable ingredients in the blighted act of evil rituals. Igbo women who historically have been strong, have been valued. Igbo women like the Omu, whose boats led expeditions in pre-colonial times. Igbo women like the female king in Enugu Ezike. Igbo women who participated in the Aba women's riot in women's rebellion in 1929. Igbo women who through centuries have traded and shown initiative, and now we are reducing women to victims of money rituals. Ndi Igbo, what is happening to us? When did this particular reign begin to beat us? Duzika nwanne si Igbo nwanne ibe ya na Igbo. When we hear of Igbo people randomly murdering other Igbo people, the instinct is disbelief. Are these stories true? They cannot be true. But they are true. How can they be true? How can they be happening among one of the great early civilizations in West Africa? The home of the Leja iron smelting that dates back to 2000 BC. Iwoku bronze with its muted extravagance that dates back to the 9th century AD. The home of the fabled Nri kingdom of the 10th century. How can this be happening among a people traditionally known for greatness and for achievement and for hard work? How can this happen among Igbo people who have long been known for the interesting dualism at the center of their culture, one of individualism on one hand and the other of a communal ethic? Igbo people who are known for gathering together to help one another. In the words of a missionary who visited Igboland in the late 19th century, the Igbo people show an unbending sense of justice and a surprising intelligence. Now let us ignore that surprising. But the larger point is that Igbo people have long been known for greatness. And yet today, Igboland is in disarray. Today, we are overseeing our own decline. There are, of course, the smaller desecrations that we have wrought on ourselves in the past 30, 40 years, one of which concerns the Igbo language. We do not have a thriving Igbo literature. We cannot seem to reach a consensus on a classical form of written Igbo. And many of us are proud to say that our children do not speak Igbo. Now, languages are really wonderful. I think the more languages one can speak, the better. I personally would like to learn Hausa. I've always loved the music of the language. But the truth is that children can learn as many languages as we expose them to. But what is happening in Igboland is not about whether children can learn languages or not. It is the result of the lack of value for what is ours. We do not value what is ours. And this lack of value is also reflected even in the contemporary Igbo practice of giving strange names to our children. Names we like, not because of their beautiful or deep meanings, but because they can be easily shortened to sound Western. Kasi, Zara, Jida. Unana Zaya Eliafane Nweri Synod. If any of you have those names, I won't blame you. It's your parents I blame.
Here, Professor Chimamanda touched on a very important subject, the naming of children. Now, most people tend to name their children depending on what suits them or what sounds very fanciful or what sounds nice, depending on the trends in the society. You hear names like Kamsi, you hear names like Chizara. People who are given names like Chizaram, a very interesting and meaningful name, shorten it as Zara. You hear people who are given names like Kamsi Yochuku, bearing names like Kamsi. Kosi Sochuku becomes Kosi, and the rest. She addresses this by urging parents to ensure that their children are given complete, meaningful Igbo names, like herself, Chimamanda. You hear people shorten it to Amanda. Who? Onyamanda. The name is Chimamanda. My God will not fail, or my God doesn't fail. But people shorten it to Amanda won't fail. Who won't fail? You have to complete the name to have its full meaning. That way the child can appreciate the name.
As an aside, I've noticed during my book signings, and I've done many book signings, but particularly the ones here in Nigeria. I've noticed that many of my Yoruba fans who come to have their books signed and they tell me their names, they always say very proudly their full names. Oluwatobilola. And I have to tell you, I find this deeply admirable, but also I feel a kind of whimsical sadness because that almost never happens with my Igbo fans. Ndizara nakasi. Somebody once said to me when I was talking about how important it was for us to conserve our language, not only is that an example of remarkable stupidity, but we must remember that human needs are not merely material. So this person was talking about, I don't want my child to learn Igbo. Igbo will confuse my child. My child will not get a good job. But human needs are not merely material. We must feed our bodies, of course. We must think about what will give us a good job. But our souls must also be fed. And it is dignity that feeds our souls. So the country of Iceland has about 400,000 people, a very tiny country, but they put so much effort into preserving their language. I've never heard an Icelandic person, the few times I've visited, say something like, Eji Icelandic ejebe. And Ireland, the Irish language, which was in decline under English rule, recently, the Irish government has put a lot of effort into reviving the Irish language. The Irish language is spoken only in Ireland. The Irish language is not really a language that is going to get the Irish people international jobs, but they're preserving it. They're preserving it, and that act of preservation is an act of love, it is an act of value, it's an act of dignity. And so to anyone who says, Ejibwejebe, not only are you lacking in intelligence, sorry, but this is true, you must also remember that we must feed our souls with dignity. And so while all of these issues, language, names, are significant, we must focus now on the large fire that is burning up Igboland. Ndi Igbo ka anyị teta n'ụla. Let us wake up. Ife emebigo na anyị Igbo. As Igbo people, we often speak of political marginalization. Whenever you're gathered among Igbo people, the next thing you hear is marginalization. They're marginalizing us. We should talk about marginalization. I think any honest assessment of Nigerian history since 1970 must acknowledge the political marginalization that Igbo people have suffered. But it is time to suspend the subject of marginalization until we have cleaned house. We are giving those who want to marginalize us even more reasons to justify that marginalization. We must first clean house. Part of that house cleaning must involve a concerted return to unity. We must unite. We must unite. Unity is not the absence of difference. Unity does not mean that we all agree on everything. Unity means a decision to come together for a greater goal despite our differences. Unity is a beautiful act of sheer will. Unity is an act of intelligence. Unity comes from the ability to think lucidly. If all of the governors of the Igbo-speaking states and all of the senators from the Igbo states decided to come together in unity and put away party affiliations, it would confer on Igboland a great bargaining power for policies that will benefit all of Igboland. Different ethnic groups in multi-ethnic countries across the world all engage in this kind of political bargaining. But for this to happen for Igboland, there must be unity. But first, I want to return to what I said earlier, Igbo, Igbo. The contemporary distinctions we often make today about Igbo identity, they're not cultural identities, they're political identities. There's a difference between a cultural identity and a political identity. When we say somebody is Delta Igbo, it is a political identity. It is not a cultural identity. Igbo-speaking peoples are one nation, one language, with different dialects. All languages have dialects. A dialect is not a language. So let us use Germany as an example. Germanic tribes have existed for centuries in Western Europe, but it was only relatively recently in the 19th century that these Germanic tribes decided to come together with the different dialects of the same language, German, and they united to form what we now know as the modern German state. Political identities are acts of political expediency. They're transient, they're fleeting, and they're hollow at the core. But cultural identities come from shared language, shared traditions, shared ideals. All Igbo peoples are Igbo. Nobody is more Igbo than another. Igbo bu Igbo.
She dared to approach a very sensitive subject, the subject of cultural identity. You will see somebody from Edo State who is Igbo. You will see somebody from Kogi State who is Igbo. Their mindset is that to be Igbo, you must be from one of the 5 southeastern states. But interestingly, Johannes Ndi Igbo worldwide has 7 states already registered, although there are 13 states where the Igbo names and Igbo culture is practiced. There are 13 states where Ndi Igbo are aboriginal, aside from the 5 southeastern states. The 5 southeastern states have Delta State and River State included in them, with somebody from Delta State occupying the positions of President General of Johannes Ndi Igbo worldwide at different times. I encourage you to watch this video to the very end. Share this video very massively to your audience and ensure that people watch it. I expect this video to go viral. It is one of the best, if not the best, cultural presentations I've ever heard, and thankfully it's coming from one of the faces, the cultural icons of the Igbo and African society. Enjoy watching.
And so, on the basis of these shared cultural values, Ndi Igbo must unite and strive to become a beacon for Nigeria and indeed for Africa. It is not too late. It is dire, but it is not too late. Let us stop making excuses for ourselves. Don't say that poverty is the reason that we are sliding into this barbarism. Poverty is not the reason. Igboland was not rich in the 1900s. We were poor, and yet we did not worship money in this way. We did not slide into barbarism. We did not kill one another. We believed in basic things, in telling the truth, in standing for moral ideas, in not stealing, in earning your money in a way that is transparent. And by the way, the world today is full of cultures and peoples who are poor, and yet they maintain their values, and yet they do not descend into a doomed abyss of evil. For that is indeed the most appropriate word for the disregard for human life that is happening in Igboland today. Evil. Ndi Igbo, let us wake up. Kaiteta Nola. Let us refuse to participate. Refuse to celebrate money whose source you do not know. Let us celebrate alternative things. Let us celebrate knowledge. Let us celebrate scholarship. Let us celebrate hard work. Let us celebrate community. We must remember that we are a great people. We have to remember that we are people who make remarkable sacrifices to live their dreams wherever they find themselves. We are people who have mastered the art of surviving the most unaccustomed parts of the earth. Let us not forget the wonderful, unique apprenticeship system that we have, Mwa boy. Often we forget the Mwa girl, where young women learn things like sewing from women, and the wonderful and unique rituals and expectations that those involve. Ndi Igbo, let us remember who we really are. We cannot become untethered from the harness of our proud and beautiful history and heritage. Igbo must once again mean what it truly means. Not selfishness, but community. Not violence, but a fierce desire to succeed through hard work, diligence, honesty, truth-telling. The very essence of our existence as a people is being eroded, and it is an aggressive, ugly erosion. We are overseeing our own decline. We are we are participating in our own destruction. How can this be? We must reclaim our heritage. Like Umuofia, before the coming of the missionaries, we must insist on the basic threshold of decency. Do we as a people endorse these practices? Do we accept egombute as a legitimate route to success? Where is the gatekeeping role of the community over every member? Something that has been central in Igbo culture for centuries. Every success needs validation from the cultural milieu that birthed it. We hear success stories, but in most cases we see only the success but not the story. What is the story behind the successes that we celebrate today? Okonkwo's greatness in Umuofia was not possible without Umuofia's collective say-so. If Igbo people had collectively risen in unison to condemn this resident evil when it first began, it would have served as a moral rebuke against the ongoing slide into barbarism. But we did not do that. It is not too late. It is dire, but it is not too late. And it is important to say that the two dominant religions that we have in this region are heavily implicated in this rot. Both the traditional religion and Christianity have a hand in our collapsing values. We have as many cutthroat Ndidibia as we have Ndipastor, who orchestrate the steady slide into this abyss. It is time to clean house. We should not accept what is happening. If there are those who seek to destroy us, we should not help them. We should not arm ourselves with guns. We should arm ourselves with a return to values. Arm ourselves with knowledge. Arm ourselves with strong sense of justice, morality, fair play. Those are the true Igbo values. It is not too late. We must wake up now. Ndibo, kaini tetanola kita. Let us return Igboland to the glory that it deserves. Dalun.
What?